Welcome back to the Talking Hedge. Here we have an 8-part cannabis business plan. If you're looking at getting into the cannabis industry, this is an A to Z step or plan on how to do that, how to manage that. In part one, we discussed setting up the ideal team. So there's multiple ways to lure top talent besides just promotion and pay. If you want the hardest working, the highest morale, the most satisfied, and overall best employees with decreased turnover, you need to trust them, empower, appreciate, mentor, keep them involved, challenge, and feeling like they're on a mission. And to that end, I coined the term team icon. With new markets entering the industry, brands constantly emerging and consolidating, it's more important than ever to take a look at cannabis consumer demographics. So in part two, we explored the sales contributions based on customer demographics in both the US and Canada. By analyzing purchasing and category trends, you'll be able to better understand how different customers shop, what type of products they tend to purchase, etc. Now that we've established how to build a team and who you're going to sell to, we're going to look at long-term forecasts in this part three for both the US and Canada markets. That's going to include total sales estimates, as well as estimates at the category level. That's going to give you a complete picture of where the market was at, where the market's at now, and where we're headed. In addition of several new US cannabis markets opening up, it's now projected that the US is going to surpass $30 billion in 2022. Not much has changed in the cannabis forecast for Canada this year, but that was expected since the market is fully legalized. The data is demonstrating that the cannabis industry is not only moving quickly, but there is no indication that it's slowing down. So businesses should be able to continue to see positive growth in the near future.
It's only entertainment.
Welcome back to the Talking Hedge. I'm Josh Kincaid, Capital Markets Analyst and host of your Cannabis Business podcast.
Let's take a look at the estimated annual sales volume by country. Both the US and Canada legal markets are forecasted to grow through this year. Because of the smaller population, the Canadian market's forecasted, like I said, 5.5 billion in the future. Last year, they were only estimated at 4 billion, much smaller than the US counterpart, which is expected to have around 24 billion. Trends for the two markets are developing somewhat differently. This year, the US for 2022 is influenced by newly added legal cannabis markets. The smaller Canadian market is forecasted to grow double the growth rate. There are a couple of reasons for this. They're growing from a smaller base. It always makes that jump in percentage more noticeable. Also, the Canadian market is newer compared to the US, where the largest markets are more mature. And then the converging growth rates this year are a result of the Canadian market maturing and the US states being added to US cannabis markets. That's New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, New Mexico, Alabama, Arizona. There's going to be more US states that will decide on legalizing medical recreation in the near future. And so that's going to change and reflect in future forecasts. Looking at category market view, focusing on the US and Canada separately, the views give an insight into the market structure and how the trends in each category might develop going forward. The data includes category contributions to growth, which allows us to analyze the shifts in the consumer preferences in the market. However, just with the total market view, categories that are included and their shares are dependent on the current level of legalization, which can change in the future. So the first two graphs are summarizing the estimates of volume, and then through that analysis, we'll look at some other data. Taking a look at category sales up in Canada, pre-roll is definitely popular on the West Coast between Oregon and Washington, BC and California. People love their pre-rolls, but the 2.0 rollout in Canada has not been helpful for tinctures, topicals, and some of the therapeutic products. Even vape pens aren't selling. Some of the reasons I've heard of is because it's really expensive. Also, the quality is not very good. Flower is still dominant, but pre-rolls are gaining a lot more popular. That grab and go is definitely very, very popular up in Canada, but so is the black market. The BC cannabis market is very mature, just like California's. So they know what they want. They're not going to worry about vape pens or the smell of pre-rolls. And flower is probably only 40%, just like California. When we look at the US, the categories are a little changed. This year, there's a dip in flower. That's dropping to about 40% of market share everywhere. So the trend is reversing that new markets that are entering the mix. So sales of concentrates are decreasing, vape pens, pre-rolls increasing. Flowers contributing less to the overall population. It was 47%. It's dipping down to 40%. So that should be expected all over the place as vape pens and pre-rolls are taking over some market share. Like I mentioned, in Canada, flower shares are falling as well. Pre-rolls gaining market share, and other categories are kind of picking up and becoming fairly stable. Flower category in Canada remains somewhat stable. And then again, pre-rolls is improving. And then that's about 29% of the overall growth. So we've talked about the US and Canada and what they buy, but when do they buy it? I think that's important, especially for retailers. So here's an excerpt from one of Headset's free reports. They say that looking at sales across all possible opening hours for cannabis shops, which are regulated differently state to state or from province, we still see some clear trends. There aren't many people buying pot at 7 a.m., and from 2 to 7 is the sweet spot for sales or discounts or promos. Colorado has one of the biggest or highest proportion of morning sales, suggesting that consumers are perhaps more comfortable with buying cannabis at hours of the day when they don't necessarily plan on immediately consuming it. Nevada, on the other hand, they see a ton of sales happening where they have the highest percentage of evening sales. That's 9 p.m. to midnight, which probably is the worst time. People are out there drinking. They're like, hey, let's go and get some cannabis. And then, the spins happen and whatever. Been there. Vegas is a place where everyone's got a cigar or cigarette or joint, and it's an interesting place. Alberta, up in Canada, no sales between 7 and 9 a.m. because retailers can't legally open until 10 a.m. So when you look at the sales by day of week or a basket analysis, Friday happy hour applies to cannabis as well. On Fridays, as similar with other days, the majority of baskets are sold between 3 and 8. But the 3 to 5 time frame, that takes up a third of all sales. So if you're going to have a store, make sure that between 3 and 5 on Fridays, that a third of all of your sales are ready to go. And the majority of that is going to be edibles on Friday. For the producers or processors or wholesalers, you need a place to sell this. There's so many people think you can just open up shop and then they will come and you'll be able to sell it. The reality is you need to find a marketplace and the ability to sell it. So find something like Apex Trading, for example, that you can go online with low pricing and easy features and have that direct relationship between wholesale buyers and wholesale sellers. Another way to go, another option, I guess, is Kush. Same thing, same kind of philosophy, whatever they have, a marketplace there. And you need to go on something similar to that and help with sales. There's also, up here, we have an event called Interchange. It's like speed dating for producers, processors, and retailers. You need to find out what that is in your area and get on board as quickly as possible, because just creating, the best fire or whatever is not good enough. There's a lot of athletes who produce CBD products. They get into, CVS across 24 stores and they think that that's all they need, and then realize no one's actually buying it. You need a massive budget for marketing and advertising, as well as distribution. So not too much has changed for the Canadian forecast in 2022. There's going to be some additional markets in the US that are going to significantly influence that forecast. The US market is now estimated to surpass $30 billion this year, and the Canadian market is estimated to reach $5.5 billion now. So next time we're going to talk about the investing from the standpoint of a CFO or controller. When you have an investment deck, you need to decide how much equity you're going to have and what type. Is it going to be equity or debt? Are you going to have warrants or rights? Is it going to be a convertible note? All of those things you're going to want to check out, as well as the rest of this 8-part series for how to create a cannabis business from A to Z.
With that, we're going to roll this one up. I'm Josh Kincaid. This is The Talking Hedge. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, or don't, and I'm out. Don't forget to smash that like button on your way out and check out these other videos that we've got.